Good morning, dear students. Today I shall take up Unit 3rd, Homesickness. Homesickness means nostalgia, heartsick, yearning, and hankering, and another synonym is jet lagged. This beautiful essay is written by R Dahl, who was an American writer of short stories, novels, and poems. He wrote about his boyhood years and early career in boy and going solo. Some of his most popular books are Matilda, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let us start this beautiful essay. Before starting this essay, I want to tell you that this essay is personal. This essay is autobiographical. A personal essay is one in which the writer uses the first person pronoun I. An autobiographical essay is one in which the writer tells about his personal experiences of life. In this essay, R Dahl tells about his personal experiences through the title of this essay, Homesickness. I was homesick during the whole of my first term at St. Peter's. The writer was sent to a school, and the name of the school given here is St. Peter. During the whole of my first term, during the first term of his examination, he was homesick. I was homesick during the whole of my first term at St. Peter's. Homesickness is a bit like seasickness. Homesickness is just like a seasickness. A seasickness is a feeling that you want to vomit because of the constant movement of the ship. Homesickness is a bit like seasickness. You don't know how awful it is, still you get it. And when you do, it hits you right in the top of the stomach and you want to die. The only comfort is that both homesickness and seasickness are constantly curable. Both the person who are suffering from homesickness or seasickness, they are instantly curable. A patient of homesickness, when he will go back to his home, his disease will be cured. He will be recovered from his illness of homesickness. The same thing with the person suffering from seasickness. As long as he is traveling in a ship, when he will reach at the port, his disease will be removed. He will be recovered from his disease. So both the person are curable. The first goes away the moment you walk out of the school ground. First means homesickness. Homesickness goes away the moment you walk out of the school ground. And the second is forgotten, means seasickness is forgotten as soon as the ship enters the port. Means that's why the writer says both are instantly curable. When you will go out of the school ground, you will be free from homesickness, and seasickness when you will enter the port, you will be recovered from seasickness. I was so terribly homesick during my first 2 weeks. When the writer was sent to St. Peter's School, first 2 weeks he was terribly homesick. During my first 2 weeks, I set about making a plan for getting myself sent back home. He was making plan. He was trying tricks to go back home, even if it were for only a few days. My idea was that I should all of a sudden develop an attack of acute appendicitis. Appendicitis is a disease of the stomach. Citis means swelling in that part of the body. Spondylitis, appendicitis, these are the diseases. It means citis means swelling in that part of the body. My idea was that I should all of a sudden develop an attack of acute appendicitis. Appendicitis, a condition, it is given in your book, a condition in which the appendix, a small organ attached to the intestines, becomes infected and has to be removed through an operation. The writer thought that he will develop an attack of acute appendicitis and then he will be successful in his plan to go back to home. You will probably think it silly that a 9-year-old boy imagined that he could get away with a trick like that. But I had sound reasons for trying it. You will probably think it is silly. You will probably think it is silly that a 9-year-old boy imagined that he could get away with a trick like that. But I had sound reasons for trying it. Only a month before, my elder sister had actually had appendicitis. Only 1 month before, the writer had the first-hand experience of experiencing the pain of appendicitis when his sister had been suffering from this disease. So all of a sudden, an idea came to his mind that when he will develop an acute attack of appendicitis, then he will get success to go back to home. Only a month before, my elder sister had actually had appendicitis, and for several days before her operation, I was able to observe her behavior at close quarters. At close quarters means from a short distance, he was watching his sister. His behavior, her behavior was watched by the writer when she had been suffering from appendicitis. Only a month before, my elder sister had actually had appendicitis, and for several days before her operation, I was able to observe her behavior at close quarters. I noticed that the thing she complained about most was a severe pain down in the lower right side of her tummy. Okay, I noticed, the writer experienced that the thing she complained about most was a severe pain down in the lower right side of her tummy. She was complaining that she had a severe pain in the lower part of her stomach. As well as this, she kept being sick and refused to eat and ran a temperature. When she had a severe pain in her stomach, she refused to eat anything and her temperature of the body ran up. You might, by the way, be interested to know that this sister had her appendix removed, not in a fine hospital operating room full of bright lights and gowned nurses, but on our own nursery table at home by the local doctor and his anesthetist. Anesthetist, a doctor who gives an anesthetic, a chemical substance used to make a person feel no pain in a part of or the whole body to a patient. Before operation, anesthesia was given to the patient. When anesthesia was given to the patient, he or she did not experience pain in that part of the body. So before operation, the writer's sister was given anesthesia. Okay. And the operation was done not in a very good or fine hospital, but it was done in the writer's house. Okay. In those days, it was fairly common practice for a doctor to arrive at your house with a bag of instruments, then trap a clean seat over the most convenient table and get on it. Okay. So the writer's sister, you might, by the way, be interested to know that this sister had her appendix removed not in a fine hospital. Her appendix was not removed in a fine hospital, in a very good hospital. Operating room full of lights, gowned nurses, but her appendix was removed on our own nursery table at home by the local doctor and his anesthetist. In those days, it was fairly common practice. It was a fairly common practice for a doctor to arrive at your home with a bag of instruments when a person had been suffering from any kind of diseases, and when the patient needed operation, then he was not going to any fine hospital. The doctors came at the patient's house with instruments, and with the help of those instruments, he was doing the operation, and such kind of thing as appendicitis was also removed at home, as the writer says. Then drap a clean seat over the most convenient table and get on with it. On this occasion, I can remember lurking in the corridor outside the nursery. Okay. Lurking means waiting quietly and secretly, especially before doing something bad. On this occasion, I can remember lurking in the corridor outside. When the operation was going on, the writer was moving here and there in the corridor, okay, outside the nursery, while the operation was going on. While the operation was going on inside the room on a table, okay, the writer was in the corridor and he was waiting, okay, he was waiting quietly and secretly, especially before doing something bad. My other sisters were with me. The writer says that his other sisters were also with him when the operation was going on. And we stood there spellbound. And all of them stood there fascinated when the operation was going on, listening to the soft medical murmurs coming from behind the locked door and picturing the patient with her stomach sliced open. Okay, listening to the soft medical murmurs. Okay, when the writer was moving in the corridor with his sister, he was listening murmuring sound that was coming out from the locked door where the operation was going on. Soft medical murmurs coming from behind the locked door. Okay, behind the locked door, and picturing the patient with her stomach sliced open. And the writer was imagining that the patient was lying on a table and the doctor sliced her stomach and opened her stomach and was operating that part of his body where she was experiencing pain. We could even smell the sickly fumes of ether filtering through the crack under the door. When the writer was moving in the corridor with his sister, he was smelling he was getting a strong smell of ether, a kind of a gas used earlier as an anesthetic that made the speaker feel uncomfortable. The next day, we were allowed to inspect the appendix itself in a glass bottle. Next day, after the operation, Dale had an opportunity to observe her symptoms closely. Next day, we were allowed to inspect the appendix itself in a glass bottle. It was kept in a glass bottle. So next day, the writer along with his sisters allowed to go inside the room and have a first-hand experience of the appendix, to see the appendix which was kept in a glass bottle. It was a longish black wormy looking thing. It was a longish black wormy looking thing, and I said, do I have one of those inside me, Nanny? Okay, he asked the Nanny that, do I have one of those inside me? Everybody has one, Nanny answered. Nanny answered, okay, in this paragraph, you will find they were allowed to see the appendix. The boy asked curious questions about it to his nanny. The writer was asking curious questions to the nanny, okay, and she answered the questions one by one. Everybody had one, answered nanny. Okay, what is it for? I asked her. God works in his mysterious way, she said, which was her stock reply whenever she did not know the answer. Okay, she said, God works in his mysterious way. The questions which was difficult for Nanny to answer, she said, God works in his mysterious way. Okay, which was her stock reply whenever she did not answer the question, which was her usual and typical reply when she was unable to answer the questions which was asked by the writer. Okay, what makes it good go bad? I asked her. The writer asked Nanny, what makes it go bad? Toothbrush bristles. Okay, a short thick hair of toothbrush, she answered, this time with no hesitation at all. This time she had no hesitation to answer the question which was asked by the writer. She said, toothbrush bristles. Bristles means a short thick hair of toothbrush when goes inside, when we swallowed while brushing, okay, it took the form of appendix. Toothbrush bristles, I cried. How can toothbrush bristles made your appendix go bad? Okay. Nanny, who in my eyes was filled with more wisdom than Solomon, replied, whenever a bristle comes out of your toothbrush and you swallow it, it sticks in your appendix and turns it rotten. Nanny, who in my eyes filled with more wisdom. Okay. Nanny, who in my eyes filled with more wisdom than Solomon. Solomon, an ancient king known for his wisdom. This time, the writer found Nanny a very wise lady, because she was answering the questions of the writer one by one, which he was asking to her. Nanny, who in my eyes was filled with more wisdom than Solomon, replied, whenever a bristle comes out of your toothbrush and you swallow it. Nanny said that loose toothbrush bristles, when you swallowed, could stick in the appendix. Okay, could stick in the appendix, and it made it sticks in the part of our body and took the form of an appendix. Okay, this installing in him a fear of loose toothbrush bristles. After hearing this, that toothbrush bristles took the form of appendix. Okay, this installing in him a fear of loose toothbrush bristles. In the war, she went on, the German spies used to secretly send box loads of loose bristles toothbrushes into our shops, and millions of our soldiers got appendicitis. Okay, then she said, when the war was going on, the German spies means detectives, used to secretly send box loads of loose toothbrushes into our shops, and millions of our soldiers got appendicitis. Nanny, honestly I cried. Honestly, Nanny. Are you saying honestly? I cried. Is that honestly true? Is it true? I never lie to you, child. She answered that I am not telling a lie to you. So let that be a lesson to you, never to use an old toothbrush. Nanny told them that I am teaching you a lesson, never to use an old toothbrush. It may be the cause of appendicitis. For years after that, I used to get nervous whenever I found a toothbrush bristles on my tongue. Whenever the writer found a toothbrush bristles on his tongue, he became nervous. He used to get nervous whenever he found a toothbrush bristle on his tongue. As I went upstairs and knocked on the brown door after breakfast, I did not even feel frightened of the matron. Matron, a woman who is in charge of the living and medical arrangements of the children at a boarding school. Okay. As I went upstairs, as the writer went upstairs and knocked on the brown door after breakfast, I did not even feel frightened of the matron. Come in, boomed the voice. Boomed the voice means to make a loud, deep sound. The voice boomed. A loud, deep sound was heard, and that sound said, come in. I entered the room clutching my stomach on the right-hand side and staggering pathetically. Staggering, walking with difficulty as if he was going to fall. Pathetically in a way that would make people pity him. Okay. I entered the room. The writer entered the room of the matron, clutching my stomach, clutching his stomach, holding something tightly when you are in pain. On the right hand side of his stomach, he was holding tightly and staggering pathetically, and he walked with difficulty as if he was going to fall in a way that would make people pity him. What is the matter with you? The matron shouted. Seeing the condition of the writer, the matron shouted, what is the matter with you? It hurts, matron. I moaned. It hurts, matron. Oh, it hurts so much. Just here. You are experiencing pain here. You have been overeating. She snapped. What do you expect if you gobble cake all day long? The matron answered. The pain is the cause of your overeating. You have been overeating. That's why you are experiencing pain in your stomach at this time. What do you expect if you gobble cake all day long? I have not eaten a thing for days. I lied. Okay, I lied. He groans and yells and lies about being sick. His act is so convincing that the matron calls in the school doctor. His act is so convincing that the matron calls in the school doctor. I could not eat, matron. I simply could not. She ordered, get on the bed. I lay on the bed and began prodding my tummy with her fingers. I lay on the bed and she began prodding my tummy with her finger. The writer lay on the bed where the matron told him to lie. And she began prodding, and she started poking or pushing with a pointed object, prodding my tummy with her fingers. I was watching her carefully. The writer was watching the matron very carefully, what she was doing. And when she hit what I guessed was the appendix place, I let out a cry that rattled the window panes. Okay. When she put her finger on the place where appendix was there, he started crying loudly. Oh, wow, wow, I cried out. Don't, matron, don't. Then I slipped in the clinger. I have been sick all morning, I moaned. He cried that he had been sick all morning. And now there is nothing left to be sick with, but I still feel sick. The writer said that he still felt sick. This was the right move. I saw her hesitate. The writer saw the matron hesitate. Stay where you are, she said, and walked quickly from the room. Stay where you are. The matron told him, stay where you are, she said, and walked quickly from the room. And she moved quickly out of the room. She had a nurse training, and she did not want a ruptured appendix on her hands. She had a nurse training. The matron got a nurse training, and she did not want a ruptured means broken or burst appendix on her hands. Within an hour, the doctor arrived. Within an hour, the school doctor also reached there. She went through the same prodding and poking, and I did my yelping at what I thought were the proper times. Okay, when the doctor came and started checking the stomach of the speaker, he thought that this is the right moment to make a loud cry to convince both of them that he had been suffering from appendicitis. Then he put a thermometer in my mouth. Then the doctor put a thermometer in the writer's mouth. Hum, he said. It reads normal. The doctor, after reading the thermometer, said that the reading of the thermometer is normal. Let me feel your stomach once more. And the doctor said, let me check your stomach once more, because the temperature of your body is normal. Ouch, I screamed. He yelled when he touched the vital spot. When he touched the vital spot of his stomach, he yelled. The doctor went away with the matron. After checking the stomach of the doctor went away with the matron. Like the matron, he must have felt it safer to send me home rather than risk an appendicitis operation in the school. The school doctor advised matron to call his parents and send him back to house, because they do not want to take the risk of doing appendicitis operation in the school. The matron returned half an hour later and said, the headmaster had telephoned your mother and she is coming to fetch you this afternoon. The news, after hearing, when the writer heard the news that the headmaster of the school phoned his mother and she is coming to fetch him in this afternoon, he became very happy. This news delights him, though he has to hide his happiness in order to pretend to be ill. I did not answer her. I just lay there trying to look very ill. The writer did not answer when the matron informed him that his mother is coming to take him in this afternoon. I just lay there trying to look very ill, and he was pretending that he is very ill. but my heart was singing out with all sorts of wonderful songs of praise and joy. Okay, but the writer's heart was singing all kinds of wonderful songs of praise, all kinds of wonderful songs of happiness. I was taking home across the Bristol Channel, and I felt so wonderful at being away from the school that I very nearly forgot I was meant to be ill. The writer was taken home across the Bristol Channel, and I felt so wonderful at being away from the school that I very nearly forgot I was meant to be. The writer forgot for a moment that he was ill. That afternoon, I had a session with Dr. Dunbar in Cardiff. Okay. The writer came back with his mother in Cardiff, and the same day in the afternoon, the writer had a session, the writer had a meeting with Dr. Dunbar in Cardiff. And I tried the same tricks all over again. And the writer tried the same trick which he tried with the school doctor and matron. Okay. That afternoon I had session with Dr. Dunbar in Cardiff, and I tried the same tricks all over again. But Dr. Dunbar was far wiser and more skillful than either the matron or the school doctor. But Dr. Dunbar was far wiser and more skillful than the school matron and the school doctor. Dahl is less successful before the family doctor, and here before the family doctor, before the village doctor, Dahl is less successful before the family doctor. He did not get success as he got success there in the school with matron and with the school doctor. After he had prodded my stomach and I had done my yelping routine, the writer repeated the same routine of screaming and yelling. He said to me, after checking the stomach of the writer, the village doctor, the family doctor said, now you can get dressed again and seat yourself on that chair. He himself sat down behind his back and fixed me with a penetrating means steady and sharp look, as if looking into the other's mind. But not unkindly eyes. You are faking. Are not you, he said. The family doctor said that really you are not suffering from appendicitis. You don't have any kind of such disease in your body. You are faking. You are pretending. Are not you, he said. How do you know? I blurted out. The writer blurted out. The writer asked all of a sudden, how do you say that I am not suffering from appendicitis? Because your stomach is soft and perfectly normal, he answered. The village doctor answered that your stomach is soft and perfectly normal. A person whose stomach is soft and perfectly normal, that person cannot be a patient of appendicitis. If you had an inflammation down there, the stomach would have been hard and rigid. If really you had been suffering from appendicitis, then the lower part of your stomach had inflammation or a swelling. Okay, the stomach would have been hard and rigid, and from that place your stomach would be hard and rigid. It is quite easy to tell. For a doctor, it is very easy to tell. I kept silent. The writer kept silent after hearing the words of the village doctor, family doctor. I expect you are homesick, he said. The doctor said that he is not suffering from, he has not been suffering from appendicitis, but he has been suffering from homesickness. I nodded miserably. The writer nodded. The writer accepted miserably when the doctor said, everyone is at first. He said, everyone copes with such a situation. Everyone is at first means everyone copes with such a situation. He said, you have to stick it out. You have to face an unpleasant situation with courage and patience. Okay, when a person is going out of his house, okay, he experienced the same feeling as you experienced there after reaching St. Peter's. So everyone copes with such a situation. Everyone face an unpleasant situation with courage and patience. I don't blame your mother for sending you away to boarding school. I am not blaming your mother that your mother sent you to a boarding school for study. She insisted you were too young to go, but it was I who persuaded her it was the right time to do. But it was I who persuaded means who made her change her mind through requests and arguments. Life is tough, and the sooner you learn how to cope with it, the better for you. Life is tough, and I think the sooner you learn how to cope with it, the better for you. It is better for you that you have to cope with life, because life is very tough. What will you tell the school? I asked him, trembling. I asked him, trembling. The writer asked the doctor, trembling, what will you tell the school? I will say you had a severe infection of the stomach, which I am curing with pills, with tablets. He answered, smiling. The doctor answered, smiling, that I will write in my report that you had a severe infection of the stomach, which I am curing with the help of some tablets, some capsules, and with pills and potions with syrups. He answered, smiling, it will mean that you must stay home for 3 more days. The doctor advised him that you stay home 3 more days, but promise me you won't try anything like this again. But the doctor told him to make a promise with him not to try this trick again in future. Your mother had enough on her hands without having to rush over to fetch you out of school. I promise, I said, I will never do it again. And at last, the writer promised the doctor that he will not repeat such a thing again. Relieved and grateful, the boy promises he will never try any similar trick again in future. Thank you.